Deleted session, April 26, 1978. Now a private session. The circulation has increased considerably in Ruber's legs, knees, and feet as a direct result of the increased activity. Today, the knees were activated almost constantly, relatively speaking, because he did follow his impulses. Since he is moving more, just about every portion of the body takes new positions. It is natural enough when he begins such activity if ambiguous feelings emerge. They should be accepted, for they often show conflicting beliefs that are then out in the open and more easily contended with, because a specific incident will usually be involved. Each such incident is like, now, a small morality play, with a lesson to be learned, and therefore each such incident is a step ahead in terms of progress and understanding. Almost immediately after your chair's suggestion, and with the work you are both doing, Robert's mind and body began to respond. Mentally, he began to think of doing things that previously he had simply put aside. The definite improvements are therefore the result of Ruber's determination and your support, but also of the body's resiliency when it is allowed to follow its natural impulses. Ruber's lapses have become quite noticeable to him, in contrast with the renewed air of freedom that he has indeed felt lately. He has also, however, begun to project, in small ways, in a quite positive manner, and felt impulses that before he denied. He at least wished he could go into the yard this afternoon. Once he imagined that he could make that step out. He wanted to pick these daffodils. He could not give in to that impulse yet, but before he would not have allowed it, because his position would then seem so hopeless in contrast. There are then several other such instances that he has forgotten, that are at least as important as the lapses that seem to loom so large. Such activity increases his sense of power, minimizes his physical hesitancy, and mobilizes physical activity. The arms have been exercised in new ways. He has felt like performing some physical activities, getting the meal today. The impulse automatically led him to perform physical acts that before he simply would not have done. So desire and impulse mobilize the body. The exercises, or rather, the exercising, automatically stimulates all portions of the body and will lead to periods of relaxation. I have mentioned this before, but your environment is a symbol of your inner life and beliefs. One appears physical to you, while the inner life does not. The physical body responds to stimulus from outside and from within. Robert's neural activity enlarges the physical stimulation possible. The different view of your house and grounds, for example, or preparing one meal automatically reminds him of others that he will want to prepare. He takes new interest in what food is in your cupboard or refrigerator. The interest propels him to look. Today, through such activities, he found himself, if in a simple fashion, taking a few steps without his table to get where he wanted to go. I am going into this material because it shows how desire works in any area. His thoughts were on what he wanted to do, though he very definitely had to consider the means, the getting about. To him, it seems like the kitchen is suddenly a room, because he has opened a room up in his mind. You cannot exactly say that each object is a symbol of a belief that specifically, and yet any alterations that you willfully make in your behavior with the objects of your intimate environment represent alterations of beliefs. There is a constant give and take between the two. In mundane terms, each piece of furniture is a symbol. You have conscious feelings about it. When you change room around you are altering beliefs in an observable way. Now give us a moment. Robert is doing the point of power exercise well. I do suggest the pillow pounding, for it encourages the expression of normally aggressive feelings through bodily release, rather than repression through bodily tension. The body likes to exert force. However, besides that, it enjoys using its strength, so the pillow beating need not be necessarily tied in with the release of aggression alone, but can serve now simply as a way for the body to express its sensations. You are getting ahead of the game because daily you are not letting things slide, and therefore cutting down on the build-up of tension. Now, many beliefs that are unfortunate in your terms are worked out through creativity at other levels, so that dreams, intuitions, and mental process work together with bodily expression toward a resolution. Some of Ruber's exaggerated fears, for example, become minimized automatically as he realizes that he can do some activities that he had given up. Following his nature impulses automatically brings issues out into the open, so that today he worried about not writing, and so was consciously aware of the conflict and of its reasons. He therefore reminded himself that he could and must tread his own individuality and reasons. The fears are not hidden in the past, but are obvious in each day, remaining buried only when you choose not to challenge them. Your work with the pendulum brought them to notice. The feedback allowed the subconscious to question the data it had been given in the past. The species is much more plastic in its nature than you imagine. Its instincts are not as set as with the animals. Children have to be taught because the abilities of consciousness in human terms cannot be held to such dictates. You must realize that the inner portions of the self are aware of the greater framework in which individuality takes place. Man will die for an ideal. A man will die to protect his children. If pure personal survival were all that mattered to the so-called subconscious, such acts would be impossible, and in fact, they would be inconceivable on man's part. And the selfish gene has nothing to do with any of it. Excellent health is to be sought. It would certainly seem. Men have committed crimes in misguided searches for an ideal. Great acts of heroism have also resulted, however, and men, it seems, have spent themselves in following an ideal that they hoped to actualize for the rest of mankind. Why does the body not protest if men have nearly starved, or become the scorn of their fellows, or whatever? The answer is that as beneficial, as desirable, as good health is, and the performance of an excellent body, man's pursuit of other kinds of accomplishment, his equally strong desire for knowledge, and his insatiable curiosity, his pursuit of the ideal, often lead him into pathways that result in the body's difficulties. Yet, in certain individuals, life, fully healthy or otherwise, would be meaningless otherwise. You both decided to do what you wanted to do regardless of any psychic field of endeavor. The term is meaningless. The fact is that you decided to use your minds in certain ways that you felt were not approved of in your society, and that pattern goes way back for both of you. When you, for example, decided to bow out of a career in commercial art, take a short break and get our friend some beer. You could have amended your ways, but you both insisted upon what you wanted. and persevered in your highly individualistic ways of looking at your world, and in pursuing questions and accomplishments that you knew from the beginning were not those of the official world. You had a period of acceptance under your belt in comics that you left. Rupert did not. He was determined to go his own way. His being demanded expression through the use of its abilities, and despite his need to be accepted by others, he began to exaggerate the threat of their disapproval into scorn. When he began to sell his work, he felt to some degree now dependent upon the acceptance of the others in the world, for if they did not accept him at all, they would not buy his books. Your own feelings about the world did not help in that regard. He took excessive means, as he said today, to avoid going to excess. The two of you exaggerated your position. You saw yourselves in opposition to the world. Rupert was afraid his need for the world's acceptance might lead him out into it again, where he would necessarily meet scorn, for he thought in absolutes. It is important that he used to promise himself that he would go on tours or television if he became well. This was actually a threat he held over his own head. You must both realize that he can indeed recover completely, and you must both want him to. Do not forget framework 2. Rupert need not go abroad in the world to promote our ideas, nor have I ever suggested it. The ideas are best promoted through these sessions and books, and not by hasty encounters on television, where answers must be simplified and ideas diluted, but in the recent writings that build in their own way, till Rupert resting upon the great framework of the intuition's knowledge, and remind him that spontaneity knows its own order. He is afraid, of course, that if he gives into impulses other than writing for a day or so, that he is lax. Yet the exercise and relaxation of the body refreshes the soul and allows the intuitions their clear vision. If he can stand it, I would like him to take until Monday to follow his impulses, whether or not writing is involved. Then, as of Monday, he can begin to correlate the new physical activity with his writing, gently by setting upon 3 hours a day of the basic time put in, but with the stress upon creativity, ideas, and free creative play that may or may not include 7 on any given day. His creative abilities will see to it that 7 is finished. He enjoys doing it, for that matter. Thoughts of work, however, do not work. You are not to compare yourselves with people who have jobs, or to say they put in some many hours, for you set up comparisons that do not apply and that hamper your creativity. You might feel like applying yourself to unknown reality, and you might feel like writing steadily for many hours. Well and good. I am aware of your difficulties with time. Practically, and yet freeing yourself of the ideas of work as you have begun to do lately with unknown frees your creativity, and you concentrate better and more clearly. This applies in double fashion to Rupert. Rupert's way of forgetting pet books is a natural and good one for him. It conflicts with your natural way. The two ways can complement each other if you understand this, as you are beginning to. In your society, with your ideas, you have paved a way for yourselves. The books sustain you financially. People do accept you, and in a way that is quite important to their pocketbooks, and in times that are not financially good. Forget the taxes. If they seem unfair to you, they are unfair to many. You are not being singled out in that regard. The increased activity and the release of impulses with these sessions and your pendulum work are once again arousing Rupert's body and mind, and your own, so that you have an excellent chance now for Rupert to recover. Do not let issues go underground. They are improvements, and considerable ones. You want more. Remember what I said about muscular activity, so that when Rupert does have a sore day, say you do not become discouraged. Give us a moment. Alterations of schedule or of activity are excellent. Now, because they serve to break up associations, they act like gentle shock treatments. Unless you have questions, end of session, and my congratulations thus far. Ralph said, do you want to say something about his drink of this afternoon? They said, the eyeglass drink potion. The old black frames of the glasses represented old beliefs. They were dropped into the water, the reign of Rupert's fears, by a young man who represented an earlier self who thought success was a male prerogative. The glasses came up cleansed, put together again, and the frames were updated, so that Rupert's fears, encountered as he is doing of late, actually allow him to see better and clear his vision. For they dissolve, and vision is restored. He was afraid that they were lost. Then he thought only one lens was saved. This shows that he was worried for his vision, and though that only the one right eye would operate properly, he discovers the glasses intact, however, better than before, and no longer curved outward and thick. This portion of the dream represents his realization that his eyes are clearing. The fears are being washed away. Before, he was afraid to go down into the fears, represented by the water. The fears dissolving, however, turn into cleansing agents. The part of the self responsible for the fears was the part that thought success a male prerogative, so that the woman had to exert extra discipline. That was also one of the reasons behind Rupert's fear of the word school. That is enough for this evening. One small point. As you realize, the adolescent children, they represent emotional conflicts in the dream that Rupert managed to force his way through. My heartiest regards and a fond good evening. Ralph said thank you, said good night.